right, welcome back. Welcome back. It's still the Super Breakfast Show, Super 93.3 FM, Port Harcourt. It's your number one family lifestyle talk and urban radio station. My name is Obi Ivy, and it's good to be with you. Now, there's a new program that we are starting today, and it will run for the next few days until next week. And it's a program we'd like to call the Legal Luminary, right? And we're basically going to be focusing on popularizing or the popularization of the River State Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law. And we're going to be discussing quite a number of, issues regarding this particular law. We'll discuss the implementation. We'll just basically know more about this law. And as it says, it's the popularization of this law. And as we know, ignorance is no excuse before the law. A program like this is geared towards ensuring that you do not have such excuses as ignorance. And God forbid you're ever in a situation and that you would need to present ignorance as an excuse. Okay, and joining me in this program are two representatives and two, strong women in the legal industry, if you like, in River State. I'm just going to let them, introduce themselves in a special way like they would like to. One of them I've had the honor and the privilege of talking to on the program. Barrister Hilda, good to have you on the program.
Good morning, Obi.
Good morning. Okay, and we have my namesake, as I was told, Mrs. Obiageri, Barrister Mrs. Obiageri, good to have you on the program as well.
Thank you so much, namesake.
Okay, so let's get a background of this Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law. Give us a little bit of background about it.
Okay, thank you very much, Obi. So let me introduce myself properly, because that will give a very a much more sounder perspective to what we're doing here today. Mm. So, like she said, I'm Obiageli Oraka Oifore. I'm a lawyer. I also work as the program associate for Center for Environment, Human Rights and Development. They call them CED. We are based in Port Harcourt here. So, in the times past, Violence Against the Persons Act was not in existence. And we have had to rely on other existing laws. And we discovered that those laws do not adequately discuss the issues around violence against persons. So women rights organizations across Nigeria came together and they started to strategize. And thankfully, we came up with a bill to, fight violence against, to address violence against women. But the National Assembly, we are of the opinion that we should make it an all-inclusive law. Mm. And that was how we went back again, and every hands were on deck to come up with the Violence Against Persons Bill, Prohibition Bill, which eventually was passed into an act. And the procedure in Nigeria, when a law, an act is passed by the National Assembly, for the same law to become operational in states, there has to be a process called adoption. Some people still use the word domestication. I choose the word adoption as a state law. So, CED being at the forefront of campaign against violence against women and girls in the society in River State, was one of the foremost people that took this campaign to the River State State of Assembly.
Yes.
And thankfully, in cooperation with other NGOs and other relevant agencies, the law was passed into this bill was passed into law in River State, assented by the governor in January 2020. So the challenge became, how do we get people who are supposed to coordinate, who are supposed to be part and parcel of the implementation process, to even gain awareness about this law and to also, begin to commence the process of implementation. So we married it with the popularization agenda.
Right.
Because it's not just about those people who would implement. The people who the law are meant to protect are supposed to be aware of the law. There's so many beautiful laws, legislation that are there. They are lying dormant. People don't know about them. And if you do not know about them, how can you maximize what you do not know that is even in existence? So that is what happened. So said, also, we sat back and then we re-strategized again, get funding and commence initiatives to sensitize the public about the existence of this law and also to train people who are supposed to be part and parcel of the implementation process, ranging from, we call those people service providers. So we analyzed the law and then we broke it down into 3. We come up with a training manual. The first one is for the civil society. The second one is for service providers. And then a marvelous thing happened. We also came up with a manual for secondary school students. Wow. Okay. Yes, because we know that a whole lot of these violence against persons are happening to them. But sometimes we undermine, the extent of the pains that they go through, and the existence of such, violence in and out of school. So that is what we've done, and this is part of the implementation of the funding, to popularize it. We've carried a whole lot of sensitization programs, trainings across Thai, Eleme, Port Harcourt City itself. And here we are today.
Incredible. Interesting. So now let me ask you, Barrister Hilda, what would you say? I mean, we've heard issues of domestic violence and the likes, but what else came together to form this law? What inspired this bill in the first place?
One of the things that inspired the passage of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law in Nigeria, and which is also domesticated in Rivers State, is that we found out that when it comes to the home front, or and intimate situations, we found out that the criminal code did not make provision for certain offenses. Let me give you for a few instances, like the Violence Against Prohibition Law 2010, which has been passed in Rivers State, has made it a criminal offense, forceful ejection from home. Hitherto, women are being ejected from their homes, and when they go to police, they will tell them it's domestic matter because there is no such offense. Right. And you know that nobody, from our ground norm, which is the constitution to order, and even in decided authorities like Akwa against Fabemi, nobody can be prosecuted or charged for an offense which is not in a statute book. Let me also give you another thing, another one of the beautiful introduction that Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law has brought into. Now, first, economic dependence. Before now, a man can say to his wife, you're not going anywhere. You stay at home, I work and bring the money. Now, if a spouse tells another spouse, prevents, prohibits, or tends to stop another spouse from working, and the spouse actually wants to work, is now an offense for which somebody, it could be man or woman. The beautiful thing about the VAP law is it's not about women. Persons could be either man or woman. So if it's a woman who wants to prevent the husband from working, wants to make him a house husband, or the man who wants the woman to become a house husband, is also an offense now. Forced economic dependence.
Wow. Forced economic dependence.
Yes, is now an offense under this law. Thirdly, we also have what we call refusal. If you say either of your spouse, it could be either man or woman, you should not visit this person. Prohibiting the person from association. Wow. The Constitution has provided right to freedom of movement, and association. Yes. But we all know that when it comes to the home, or families, a man will say, I don't want you to visit your family.
when you force a woman not to associate, with his family or friends, is also now an offense. Another one again is stalking. I'm not going to talk about all the provisions of this section. I'm talking about the salient ones, the very important ones, the ones that were not crimes, or they were not adequately provided for, which this violence against persons prohibition law has made offenses, like stalking. Before now, you could decide to be following somebody, in an even annoying manner, and it's not an offense. But now, if you stalk somebody and the person can prove it, and is investigated, someone can also be charged for stalking. All so right. It's a really the violence against persons prohibition law, which has been domesticated in 2010 by the Rivers State of Assembly, is a beautiful law. And a lot of civil society organizations like my own, Ola, we made a lot of input. The House called for public hearing, and you see all those areas which before now we are not clear cut. Offenses we are not, provided, penalties or offenses we are not provided for. This law, has made provisions for them so that persons, particularly women, could be adequately protected. It's a very useful tool or law in the hands of civil society organizations.
Okay, so let me go back to Barrister Mrs. Obi. What is this law? If you can explain it, if you can define it, we'll appreciate it. The Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act or law. What is it?
Thank you very much. So we draw the definition of violence against persons definition law from the preamble. The moment you open the law itself, you will discover that the first sentence describes exactly, concisely what the violence against persons law is all about.
Right.
And let me, for the purposes of emphasis, read it out.
Please.
It said, a law to prohibit and eliminate all forms of violence against persons in private or public life, provide maximum protection and effective remedies for victims of violence, to provide for punishment of offenders and for the other related matters. A very comprehensive law.
Can you take that over again? Can you take that again, please?
Okay. A law to prohibit and eliminate all forms of violence against persons in private or public life, provide maximum protection and effective remedies for victims of violence, to provide for punishment of offenders and for other related matters. So breaking it down, I said this law is a masterpiece. Unlike the other laws that tells you, okay, you do this and provides for a crime and the punishment and you move on. This law is all encompassing. It breaks it down step-by-step procedures on how to achieve justice.
Okay.
So it defines each and every offense that it is talking about. It provides remedies for victims, redress. So it's not enough that a perpetrator is punished for this crime. It also gives a victim an opportunity for redress, because that's where healing starts. In the past, we've had people, maybe there's sexual violence occurs and the perpetrator is sent to
jail.
What happens to the victim? There are traumas that cannot go away except they are treated. It's also brought together service providers and how they can render these helps, making provision for counseling, even for things that the state will also have to contribute in order to be sure that a victim is fine at the end of the day. It also goes beyond, the other provision of the other laws. It's like my colleague said, it brought in all other aspects that in the times past were not envisaged to even constitute a crime. In the past, they would say it's a private matter. A woman is a graduate. She's supposed to contribute to the affairs of her own, even her own family, before she married this man. And then you tell her you should sit at home, you don't work, you're just here to make babies and look after them. and she is hurting, but it's a private matter. It's husband and wife matter. Nobody puts mouth. Now, the law is very clear on this. So there's a lot of innovation. Now you can do that because it's a crime to deprive somebody of economic livelihood. So it is called economic abuse under the Violence Against Persons law.
Wow.
Yes. So, there's so much innovation around it. We are not talking about the nitty-gritty of the law itself today because this is just an introduction to talk about, okay, this is what Violence Against Persons law is.
And I'm sure a lot of people have questions to ask, but I'm just going to say that this is the introductory episode of this particular program. And we'll be talking about it every day for the next few days at 9 o'clock. So make sure that you make that time a time where you're close to a listening device where you can tune into Super FM. But if you've just joined me, it's Legal Luminary on the Super Breakfast Show, 9:18. So it's 18 minutes past 9 o'clock. And we are talking about the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law. And this is a program that is funded by the European Union through the British High Commission. The British Council, rather. And yes, basically this law, we want to enlighten everybody. It's important that we know the provisions of the law for every one of us. And if you do not know what is your right, you cannot know what to ask for within the ambit of the law. And there are people who are dealing with things that the law has already made provision for, but they're unaware of it. And one of such could be this particular law in question, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law, that has been domesticated in River State. And I do have in the studio Dr. Hilda Desmond Ihekire, and she is coordinator, African Women Lawyers Association, River State chapter. And I also have with me Barrister Obiageri Oraka. That other name?
Orifoye. I think you tried.
Okay. Don't worry. I'm gonna take the next few minutes to study that name because I like to be able to pronounce everybody's name just right. Yes, but yeah. Okay. So let me ask you this question, anyways. Why is this law so important?
Well, why is this law very important?
Yes.
Because the law wants to holistically address all forms of violence against persons in the society with intention of eliminating those that are in existence, prohibiting those that, it's a law that prohibits. And then it's a law that also targets to eliminate. So we want to stop it from happening. We want to also wash away the ones that are already happening. We want to also give victims a redress.
Right.
We want to also punish offenders. We want to also bring on all hands on deck to ensure that we eliminate all forms of violence against persons in the society. So a primary objective of the law is to check these crimes. The other objective is to also stop people from even thinking about engaging in it. To also introduce, as an offense, things that the society do not want, to also check them, to also eliminate them. But basically, one of the objectives of the program, sensitization program itself that we are doing, is also to increase reporting of these crimes. Most of the times in the past, people shy away from reporting such cases because they face stigmatization, they face victimization, they face discrimination because it's maybe in the time past, because there's a culture of silence around these crimes, they were viewed as taboo.
Okay.
You can imagine people, a woman taking the husband before the law, or a woman insisting that, I also have a right to livelihood, economic livelihood. And so many other things that people would have frowned out. The law is out to make it, open, so people can discuss them freely.
Yeah.
And the more we discuss about these things, the more these cases come up before service providers, before the courts. the lesser the culture of silence around them. To also encourage people who are going through this kind of abuses to speak up, to seek redress, to let you know that the law is for you to utilize, to also empower the people who would maximize this law to be aware of the existence of the law. There are so many rights we have that we do not know that are rights. So the more we popularize this VAP law, the more people actually know that, so I have a right to be protected from someone who is always stalking me. To also let the society know that it is no longer
it's going to be business as usual.
Business as usual. It touched on even in the issues of patriarchy.
Wow.
Yes, it touched on issues of harmful traditional practices. Incredible. So the law recognizes that there are other laws that we also lend credence to to its provision. So it is not existing in isolation, So it helps to popularize those ones too in the process to ensure that these laws are being used to check violence, to check abuses, and to make sure that we have a healthy society.
The phone lines have been buzzing non-stop, and I'm sure a lot of people have something to say about it. But should you choose to join the conversations, all you have to do is call 0705 079 1021 and 081 17431 021. And you can send me a text on 0905 948 1021. But, one of the things that I want to ask, first of all, is how long did it take for this law to come together? For the bill to come together, how long was it in the works? Because you described it as a masterpiece, and from your explanation, it's amazing, the things covered in the law and how specific and explicit it is, right? How long did it take to put together? Yes, please, Barrister Hilda.
It took a long time, like say 4 to 5 years, before it actually was passed as a law in the National Assembly, as an act in the National Assembly, and as a law in the states. And this is one law. At least let me talk about Rivers State. The Rivers State House of Assembly had a public hearing and called all civil society organizations, NGO, community-based, and stakeholders in society. The law that came as this 2020 law is not actually how, the person who, originated the passage of this law actually came, but they took into consideration all the inputs, and suggestions made by these organizations and stakeholders before it was eventually passed. That is why it seemed to have covered all those other areas that hitherto has been a problem, especially for those of us that are into protection of women and children's rights. If you also notice, before now, even though there is failure to provide necessaries of life in the criminal code, but this law has also made it an offense, is abandonment of spouse and children. Wow. Because before now, that was the major complaints besides the issue of spousal battery, and abuse. A man will marry, will have children, all of a sudden, he no longer likes the woman's face. He not only abandons the woman, but with the children. He will not provide them with means of subsistence and sustenance. So it's now an offense, either for a man or a woman to abandon the children. We also know some other thing, which, like my organization, we really have something we are doing on that. This issue of dehumanizing and harmful traditional practices against a widow. Although there is a law prohibiting the River State's dehumanizing and harmful traditional practices law, prohibiting harmful and dehumanizing practices against widows, the VAP law has increased the offense. Right. So anybody who tries to disinherit a woman now commits an offense under this law.
A woman as a wife,
A
or
wife,
a woman as a daughter?
A wife.
Okay.
It did not talk about daughter.
Okay.
I think that one is also another bill that is underway.
Oh,
you
right.
know, the River State House of Assembly.
Yes.
You know, so if you abandon your children or your wife and they make a report, you know, is something for which, if it is investigated and found true that you actually abandoned your wife, your dependents, not just your wife. So the way it is, I think it should also include those who abandon their aged parents who cannot, once it has been proved, or apprentices, once it's been proved that you're the person who is supposed to take care and you abandon those persons.
It's also an offense.
It's also an offense. It's also talk about violence by state actors. The 2023, elections are heating up. We know that there will be thugs or government or whoever will send people, those that will snatch ballot boxes.
Right.
So there's also provision, for there's also provision for violence by state actors.
Wow.
So in other words, you can also sue governments. Any of those associations that one way or the other either aided or try to. You saw what happened during the NSAS protest. You know that police is government, and you know that some of them, for whatever reasons or the other, some of those who participated in that process were malhandled.
Right.
So those are also some of the innovations that has been brought by the Violence Against Persons Prohibition law. It also went further to talk about rape. Although rape is also in the criminal code, but this law also made provision for the issue of rape. So it's something like we say in law, ignorantia juris non excusat. That is why it simply means ignorance of the law does not does not excuse.
Wow.
So now, when it comes to we know that mostly in the southern, in other states in Nigeria, when a man dies, because of our patriarchal system and the belief that ordinarily a man is not supposed to die early or die, before the wife. When a man dies, most times accusing fingers are pointed at the wife. And and in traditional societies, the woman never wins. It's always they want to turn the law the other way around to say, if you did not kill him, prove that you did not kill him. And they introduce all manner of things that hitherto were crimes. Trial by ordeal. At times they say you have to, do some dehumanizing treatments in the name of performing burial rites. Like they say, sit on the floor.
Okay.
You force a hand. So those things are now offenses, and it will really this VAP law will really help to stop such dehumanizing practices against widows.
Okay, I know that our time is far spent, but real quick before we go, just as a summary, who are those who are supposed to benefit from this law? Barrister Obiageri, please tell us this one.
Thank you very much. The entire society are supposed to benefit, but specifically, we have women, men, boys, girls, children. So at the end of the day, the society at large are to benefit, because at the end of this sensitization process, the chief outcome that we anticipate is to change mindsets. The things that you thought you could get away with, the things you thought were the status quo, the things that you felt you are entitled to, it helps to eliminate all this from you. So you begin to see everybody in the society as people that matter, people that are protected by the law. You begin to view certain cultures from the lens of unacceptability and criminal acts. And then I think we're better off at the end of the day. But yes, the society at large stands to benefit from the existence of this violence against prohibition law.
Interesting. All right, thank you so much for coming. And if you've been listening, you will understand that we've not even scratched the surface of this conversation, and that's because this is just a chance to introduce, to let you know that this law exists, to define what it is, and to generally give you an objective, give you an insight of what this law aims at achieving. And as we've just pointed out, those who stand to benefit from this law and just by knowing about it. So we're going to do this again tomorrow and the day after that, and we'll dig deep into this law. We're going to go into the specifics of the law, and you will also get the chance to mirror your situation in the reflection of this particular law. See yourself through this law and find out how you can walk around it, how you can make the law work for you as well, and become a beneficiary specifically by this law. But thank you once again, Barrister Obiageri Oraka Oifoe, Program Associate, Center for Environment, Human Rights and Development, and Dr. Hilda Desmond Ihekiri, Coordinator, African Women Lawyers Association, River State Chapter. Many thanks for your time, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. All right. Okay, stay with me. Still the Super Breakfast Show on Super 93.3 FM Port Harcourt, and we're going to be keeping our eyes open. We're going to be keeping an eye on the protest going on. And our correspondent, Femi Ogunkilede, is standing by. We're going to talk to the two parties. We're going to be speaking to the Comrade Beatrice Itubo-led arm of the NLC, as well as the Comrade Emechetas M of the NLC, and we'll find out how they're both responding to the call to protest in solidarity and how they're going about this protest as peacefully as possible. Stay with me, Super 93.3 FM, Port Harcourt.
We are the only radio station created to inform, inspire, and influence you.